Hi, everyone. Did you know that the keto diet cures binge eating disorder and food addiction? I will go over some amazing results that are coming out lately with a 100% cure rate for food addiction and binge eating simply by removing carbs from your diet. So, what is ketosis? It is a state of running on fat as opposed to running on carbs as your main energy source. And you can achieve that by dropping your total carbohydrate intake to less than 25 grams per day. And so you can do that following a ketogenic diet or my favorite, the carnivore diet. But the point is, just carbs have to be less than 25 grams per day. Some people can afford to eat 50 grams even and still enter that state of ketosis. It depends. If you're taller, if you're male, if you're a bigger person, all those things allow you to have a little bit more carbs and still enter a state of ketosis. Hi, I'm Dr. Sarah Zaldivar. I have a PhD in nutrition and exercise physiology from the University of Miami. I was featured on the first ever carnivore diet TV show, Reverse TV series, and I've taught for more than a decade at the University of Miami, Miami-Dade College, and the American College of Sports Medicine and elsewhere. I've coached thousands of clients, and I was able to lose and maintain 35 pounds. And I did that by targeting the baseline dopamine level, raising that, and paying attention to drug foods and treating the root cause of binge eating and food addiction. All right, so let's start with the exciting studies. There is this 2021 study from Italy that showed a 100% cure rate for binging and food addiction. It was done on five women, five Italian women, and they had them follow a very low calorie ketogenic diet for approximately 5 to 7 weeks. And after that, they put them on only on a low calorie diet for an additional 11 to 21 weeks. At the end of the study, so a total of around 28 weeks, no patients showed a positive diagnosis of food addiction or binge eating symptoms. Basically, 100% cure rate for both binge eating and food addiction. And they used the gold standard method by using the binge eating scale for looking at the binge eating disorder symptoms, and they used the Yale food addiction scale to look at food addiction symptoms. The patients also lost weight, and specifically that weight came from dropping body fat and they maintained their muscle. So it was a good kind of weight loss whereby the body looks that it's getting fitter as opposed to just becoming very emaciated or wasted looking. So these results make so much sense when you put it in context of additional findings that show how a ketogenic diet drops alcohol and cocaine addiction without any other intervention. Granted, those were done in rodent models. So there is the study that looked at how a ketogenic diet lowered alcohol intake in adult male mice and diminished behavioral responses to cocaine in young adult male and female rats. So in both of those studies, just by putting the rodents on a ketogenic diet, they spontaneously reduced their intake of drugs, whether that's alcohol or cocaine. And now we're learning that it's not just the dopamine D2 receptor that I'm always talking about and talking about how it's important to raise our D2 receptors, and that is going to increase our baseline dopamine level in order to lose weight and find food freedom and not have addictive tendencies towards sugary foods. But now we're learning is that what happens is that the dopamine receptor, the D2 receptor, forms a complex with the adenosine 2 receptor. And so when you follow a ketogenic diet, that increases adenosine levels in the brain and it activates this complex, this D2 and adenosine 2 receptor complex. And that is possibly how the addiction naturally and spontaneously goes away. Additional mechanisms that explain how the keto diet cures addiction, hunger, and binging. Number one, it can blunt ghrelin. It's your main hunger hormone. So just being in a state of ketosis, your ghrelin levels are going to drop. It also increases the production of satiety signals and satiety hormones like cholecystokinin, CCK, and PYY, peptide YY. And it stabilizes your blood glucose levels. And just by having a stable blood sugar levels, you're not riding that blood sugar high and drop, that roller coaster that most people are riding all day long. When you don't do that, you don't have cravings because every time your blood sugar drops, that's a very strong trigger for a craving and you're going to reach for a quick source of energy. And oftentimes that comes in the source of sugar or a carbohydrate that's going to break down very quickly, just like sugar in your body. Another really cool study was done by Dr. Tro Kalayjian and his associates. I actually interviewed Dr. Tro on my channel. If you go back maybe a couple of years, you will see it's in the title. If you just Google it, you can watch the interview. So they published this paper in 2020 And they looked at 3 individuals with obesity. So their body mass index, their BMI was 43.5. So that's morbid obesity. We have different classes, class 1, class 2, class 3 obesity. So these were at the highest level of obesity. And they also had binge eating disorder symptoms and they had food addiction. So they put them on a standard ketogenic diet and they put them on a 60% fat. So 60% of their calories came from fat, 30% came from protein, and 10% came from carbs. And they put them on that for 6 to 7 months. And the results were astonishing. And just before I show you the results, if you look at the pie chart, 60% fat, that goes to show you that you don't have to go crazy with the fat. You don't have to be eating sticks of butter in order to get these results. Just go for normal ground beef or steak or protein food sources like that. Just don't go out of your way to consume very, very lean meats. And you're going to get the 60% fat ratio that way. Also, in my experience, putting a lot of my clients on a ketogenic or carnivore diet, I can put them on leaner cuts of meat and they will still enter massive levels of ketosis. And that's going to cure their cravings and food addiction. And so don't worry too much about the numbers. If you have a ketone meter like the ForaCare that I like, I wish I had put it in the presentation, but it is in the description box of this lecture. That's the gold standard really, and I prefer its results over the other major ones like Keto Mojo or Precision Extra. It seems to be more accurate. So if you have that ForaCare device and you can get the ketone test strips, they come with it. Make sure you use my code to get a discount. Then that device is going to tell you if you're in ketosis or not, and you don't have to worry too much about the ratios. You can still do leaner cuts of protein if you want even faster weight loss, and you will still enter ketosis that way. Alrighty, what are the results? One patient, a 34-year-old male, lost 45 pounds in 6 months. And here's the best part: near complete resolution of food addiction symptoms, almost 100% cure rate of food addiction. This is what food freedom is. This is what a happy, fit, happy, healthy life is. Another patient who was a 62-year-old female with type 2 diabetes experienced a reduction in binge frequency from daily episodes to a single occurrence only over 9 months. If I remember correctly, she was binging twice every single day, eating uncontrollably massive amounts of calories. Imagine going from that, binging every single day twice, to having just one binge episode over 9 months. And, if you've ever struggled with binging, I know I have, it's horrifying. I could not even imagine binging more than once a day. Just once is enough to really mess you up big time. And so imagine going from that to not having any binges except one over a 9-month period. For me, that's 100% cure rate. And she lost weight, of course. All right, all reported significant reductions in binge episodes and cravings. And we usually use, again, the binge eating scale to look for binge eating diagnosis. And we look at the Yale Food Addiction Scale to look at diagnoses of food addiction. And so the scales confirmed that they no longer had the addiction and the binge eating, and the patients lost weight, and that ranged from 10 to 24% of their body weight with sustained benefits lasting 9 to 17 months post diet. Now, a little disclaimer: when you do break a keto or a carnivore diet, oftentimes because you have not been having the carbohydrates for so long, and you might fall in love with that lifestyle and develop some form of a cognitive distortion known as the all or nothing, which I know I've struggled with that. Then the moment you break, you might go all out and really go on a binge that could last weeks or months. So if you're not careful about what's going on, you really want to be supported mentally so that you make sure if you ever slip up or you have a binge or you have a craving, it does not turn into an all-out binge whereby you're off the rails for months on end just because you felt restricted because you weren't eating carbohydrates. Now, those studies are amazing, and they're actually more than that. I'll do additional videos talking about even more recent studies showing even stronger results. But generally speaking, if we look at the body of work that looks at keto and food addiction and binge eating, we still really don't have strong evidence in that. We don't have very large sample sizes and higher quality types of studies like randomized control trials where you force people into a lab and you give them the meals and you ensure that they're consuming nothing but those meals. And it's just a little bit harder to conduct those kinds of studies. If we want to stick to high quality scientific evidence, the gold standard for binge eating disorder is CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. around 65% of patients achieve full remission with cognitive behavioral therapy. I used to not really fully grasp the power of CBT and just controlling your thoughts until I saw firsthand how taking that seriously improved my discipline and my mental strength and gave me those results. And now I'm a full believer, and I make sure that I pester my clients a lot with controlling the mind and self-talk and CBT. So what I would recommend is doing a keto or a carnivore diet and then layering on top of that CBT, whereby you're controlling your self-talk and you're forcing specific thoughts to fire as opposed to allowing the negative and stressful thoughts to run through your brain, because every thought, when it fires, it releases a neurotransmitter. So you're either firing positive, empowered, disciplined thoughts that are releasing dopamine, or if not, you are releasing cortisol and norepinephrine, stressful thoughts. And so you're actually changing your emotional state, which dictates your behavior simply by choosing which thoughts you allow to fire. Hence why CBT and controlling self-talk is so powerful, because it teaches you how to neutralize cortisol thoughts by forcing dopamine releasing thoughts. I do have a guide called Instant Dopamine and Monster Mindset, actually, that can help a lot with that type of therapy. And then you've got visualization as well, which I'm not going to go deep into that, but my clients know how powerful that is. It's another major type of treatment for mental strength and discipline and food addiction and cravings and all of the above. And then I would also recommend adding in exercise, because exercise is going to increase D2 receptors, which is going to increase the A2A, remember the adenosine receptors, and it's going to treat the cravings cause at the root. So studies actually have shown that just by introducing exercise, you can reduce heroin by 70%. And so if you want all the stuff that I'm talking about in a nutshell, you can get the cravings bundle. I've put together all the guides that I have that target specifically cravings, binge eating, food addiction. And it's called the cravings bundle, and it's got 4 guides. The 21 days to food freedom, this is my latest guide that just got released, and it talks about all the critically important aspects you need to understand to handle food addiction and to just treat it at the root. And then you've got Monster Mindset that has a positive self-talk and the visualization section that's critically important. And you've got the instant dopamine for it's a form of CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and the exercise element. Remember how critically important it is to use exercise to reduce cravings and addictive type behavior. All that stuff is written out in the dopamine brain guide. So you can get them all on drzaldivar.com/shop. And I will send you a free copy of my diet, which is a carnivore diet. And you can get that guide, the 30-day carnivore diet challenge guide, when you sign up to my newsletter at drzaldivar.com/newsletter. And within the next 48 hours, you can use the coupon code YouTube to get 50% off on all of my one-on-one coaching packages. I do recommend the 12-week coaching package just because it gives us enough time to implement all the changes and wire them in. And we get 12 Zoom calls, 12 one-hour Zoom calls, unlimited email support, lab reviews are included, and of course the meal plan, the supplement plan, the exercise plan, and more importantly than that, it's the customization to ensure that we don't plateau and we don't wait too long before making necessary changes so that momentum remains. And then, of course, the accountability and the support. And you can find that on drzaldivar.com/coaching. All the links are in the description box below. You can find me also on Instagram, dr.sarah.zaldivar, and you can check out my website at drsarahzaldivar.com. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful and motivating, and I will see you in the next one.